Hello and welcome to the One Life Church devotional series where we cover the entire Bible in 20 months. So today's chapters are Jeremiah 7 and 8. And I am freezing cold. I'm here in a B&B in Bloemfontein. We're on our way down to the Western Cape, my dad and myself, on a road trip. And so I will catch you somewhere in the Karoo tomorrow. Now, Jeremiah is assigned an incredibly difficult task today. He's told, go and stand in the temple and prophesy to those coming in and out of that temple. And that would have taken quite a bit of courage, particularly when you consider what he's got to say. He says, do not trust in these lying words, saying the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord is sufficient. So he's basically saying, just because you're going to the temple, don't think you're okay. So, people today might translate that. So I say, I go to church, I go to church, I go to church. That's not sufficient. Or I watch on TV. I'm on the internet church. Or my mom and my dad, we church people. He's saying that's not enough. He says, you need to thoroughly amend your ways, which is another way of saying you need to repent. And he describes the thing that needs repenting of. He says there's injustice. The courts have gone haywire. In other words, people are giving wrong judgments. He says no one's defending the weak. He says people are murdering, apparently in a spiritual ritual. They allowing people to die, and nothing's been done of it. And you walk after other gods. Now, today you might say, God, we're a far cry from this. Not really. Yeah, a God is something that you deem as most important in your life. There are many things that people deem as most important in their life that are not Jesus Christ. He could easily be talking to them. There are many people that have become spiritual, but yet have not have received Jesus. And I think there are many murders that happen in the guise of spirituality. I think abortion is one of those. I mean, you are killing babies under the guise of this very important value of the sanctity of a woman's body. But what about the life that is in there? Anyway, regardless of how you want to apply this, he says you trust in lying words that cannot profit you. Has this house, which is called by name, become a den of thieves? And we know what Jesus had to say about that, didn't he? When he arrived, he says, you've turned my house into a den of thieves. Now, he's talking about a radical heart transformation that's necessary. And then he has this interesting phrase. He says, Shiloh enjoyed the glory for hundreds of years. In other words, Shiloh was a place where the Ark of the Covenant was. But it came to an end abruptly. It showed that the housing of the tabernacle of God, the housing of the Ark, did not prevent judgment. So he says, don't think that just because I've said I'm with you, that you're okay, because look what happened to Shiloh. Shiloh came short in the end. And then he says, the children gather wood, the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead dough to take care of the Queen of Heaven. Who's the Queen of Heaven? Well, the Queen of Heaven was the Babylonian god Ishtar, which is identified with the planet Venus. So he says, listen, you think you're okay, but actually you're going just the same way as the Babylonians. Add your burnt offerings to your sacrifices and meat and burnt offerings. He's basically saying, he just say, you might as well eat your sacrifices just like you eat everything else, because, he's basically saying this, obedience is better than sacrifice. We've heard that before, haven't we? So what is the point of all these sacrifices rising to me when you're not obeying me? Anyway, so chapter 8 goes on a similar theme. At that time, so he's connecting chapter 7 to chapter 8. Death shall be chosen rather than life by the residue of those who remain. He's basically saying the misery of the residue that survived Babylon will be worse than life itself. And then he talks about Judah's stubborn refusal to return. He says even the stork of heaven knows her appointed time. The turtle dove, the swift, and the swallow. He says all these birds know when to go, how to go, where to go, and you don't. He says, you need to return to me. The stork even knows where to go. You should know where to go. And then he talks about the folly of rejecting the word of the Lord, the judgment on those who are coming, fleeing the fortified cities under God. You can't, there's nowhere to run When God's judgment comes, he says there's basically nowhere to run. And he says you'll be looking for peace, but only finding trouble. And it ends by saying, there is no balm in Gilead. There is no physician there. Saying when the judgment comes, he says, you're not even going to find therapy. You're not going to find... So the balm of Gilead was like a medicine, like a soothing ointment that could be applied in those days. He says, you're not going to find that. He says, listen, you've got to repent, turn your ways. There's this foreboding message by the prophet. And I suppose I was thinking yesterday in my own life, Lord, I know that you've forgiven me. I know that this is taken care of. But search your light on me. See if there's any wicked way in me. And help me to turn. Like a stalk, no way to turn. Help me to turn. God bless you. See you tomorrow in the Karoo.